Hey everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the latest Hurricane Tracker app video update recorded late in the evening on Friday, September the 30th. Well, what a day it has been tracking Hurricane Matthew in a little over 36 hours. Matthew has gone from a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 150 miles per hour. And some of the latest data from the new Hurricane Hunter mission indicates winds could even be a little bit stronger, and if they get above 155 miles per hour, we could have a Category 5 hurricane, and that happens on average about every 10 years in the Atlantic Basin. Now, when systems get this strong, they do fluctuate in intensity. Sometimes they'll go through eye wall replacement cycles, but overall, over the next several days, the National Hurricane Center is forecasting this system to remain a major hurricane, Category 3, 4. Again, possibly could attain Category 5 status. Throughout most of the day today, it has been moving towards the west southwest. That motion is expected to turn more towards the west tonight and into tomorrow, and then a gradual turn towards the north northwest and eventually northwest towards Jamaica late in the weekend and into early next week. Let's take a look at the latest data from the latest National Hurricane Center advisory. Pressure is down to 945 millibars. It is moving towards the west southwest at 9 miles an hour. So it has slowed down. Earlier today it was moving about 15 miles per hour or so. And it's 440 miles southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. We do have a hurricane watch in effect for Jamaica and a tropical storm watch in effect for the southwest portion of, for the southwest portion of the Haiti coast. And let me zoom in to show you those watches. All right, so you can see the M means major hurricane. So the National Hurricane Center expects Matthew to remain a major hurricane. Um, the cone of uncertainty extends from the west coast of Jamaica to the west coast of Haiti, and but based on the latest model guidance, and we are getting closer in time, we are pretty confident that Matthew will either make landfall somewhere here in eastern Jamaica, and that is where Kingston is located. Unfortunately, the highest population, or just off of the eastern shores of Jamaica. We don't think the center is going to track as far east as Haiti, but since you will be on the right side of the storm and it is a large hurricane, effects are not just felt around the forecast point, but they are felt around the outside portions of the storm as well. So take that into consideration. We could see major flooding and landslides. A lot of these areas have very mountainous terrain. But overall, over the next few days, we expect Matthew to turn towards the north, and then Monday impact Jamaica as a major hurricane and impact Cuba, eastern Cuba, on Tuesday also as a major hurricane. Now it will weaken a little bit as it moves over the mountains here in eastern Cuba. May weaken back down to a Category 2 hurricane before re-strengthening again over the Bahamas midweek. So if you're in these areas, we can't urge enough. Please begin to make preparations for this system. It could be a very high impact event, and we are very confident in the forecast through Tuesday afternoon here. Beyond Tuesday, let's take a look at the National Hurricane Center's cone of uncertainty. You can see it does scrape the southeastern edge of Florida, and it does include just about all of the Bahamas. Right now, the official track from the National Hurricane Center shows the center of the hurricane tracking right up through the central Bahamas. And really, once we get beyond Wednesday afternoon, the forecast gets much more challenging as the models have not quite settled on what the final outcome and path would be of Matthew. But if you are in the Bahamas, eastern Cuba, Jamaica, we do expect impacts. If you are in Florida, The models have been trending your way as they may be underestimating the strength of a ridge of high pressure, which is located here over the over the southwestern Atlantic here, and the flow around the area of high pressure is what has been responsible for pushing Matthew towards the west. And the stronger that high pressure ridge is, the closer to the coast it could move Matthew. Now, if the ridge of high pressure weakens or is not as strong as the models are indicating, Matthew would tend to move towards the northeast out into the open Atlantic. But right now, the latest trends are the models have been trending closer with each run, especially the GFS, the GFDL, and the UK Met, closer and closer to Florida, enough to where it could be a big concern. Even if the system is, 50 to 75 miles offshore, we could still see hurricane force winds or even tropical storm force winds for the eastern portions of the Florida Peninsula. So something to watch very carefully. That's still, several days out, but we do need to keep an eye on that. Let me show you the latest computer models. Let me get up the latest plots here. The spaghetti models, they run every 6 hours, and it's really a good indicator of how the models are trending. So let me turn my cursor back on here. So you can see through about 4 days here, the models are tightly clustered here. Again, just east of Jamaica through eastern Cuba. But once you get about 4 to 6 days in the forecast period, the models do begin to diverge. If you look closely, we have some, let me change back to my pen here, that are bending towards the coast, while we have others that are bending away from the coast. And basically the reason you see that is 5 days from now, each of these models have a different forecast as to how strong the ridge of high pressure is going to be, and how far west it may be able to push the system. And to complicate things even further, the models are also forecasting a trough of low pressure to dig into the Gulf of Mexico, and the flow around that will also help Matthew move towards the north. So, very complicated steering pattern. It's something that cannot be resolved 5 to 8 days away. Our technology is just not that good enough yet, and it's just really something we're going to have to watch closely. So really, anyone along the eastern seaboard from South Florida all the way up through the Canadian Maritimes, continue to check in daily for the latest information on this system. Now, we are very confident that we're not going to see any major shifts west into the Florida Keys or the Gulf of Mexico. The steering pattern just does not favor that, especially with a trough of low pressure forecasted to dig here over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico that will act as a protector. So those of you in the north central and eastern Gulf of Mexico can breathe a little sigh of relief. Before we go, I want to go over to the Tropical Tidbit site. This is a wonderful site for checking the computer models, and I want to outline just some of the players here and maybe help you learn just a little bit. So you can see Matthew is down here located in the south central portion of the Caribbean Sea. And this area here you see with the orange shading, just to keep it simple, is a ridge of high pressure. And again, the flow around that is what has been pushing Matthew towards the west. And here we have an upper level low feature over the Midwest. And in the atmosphere, this is lower pressure, and over here we have higher pressure. And hurricanes and tropical storms tend to travel where you have a weakness in the atmosphere, and usually it's around the edge of an area of high pressure or out in front of a trough of low pressure. So if we move this out in time, I want you to watch how this upper low evolves and how this upper ridge of high pressure evolves. As you can see, a weakness gets created in between, a pathway, so to speak. So you see that? I'm going to go out to 78 hours, and you see now the ridge of high pressure has been displaced to the east, and the trough of low pressure is beginning to move out. And to complicate things even further, here in the 4 to 5 day range, we'll have a new area, a new trough of low pressure trying to move in across the central United States. So this system would tend to move where you see this weakness between the main steering players here. So again, if the western edge of this is closer to the United States, it could help push Matthew fairly close to the coast. And that's something we're going to be watching with future runs, as the last couple of days, each model run has been trending stronger and further west with this area of high pressure. So once again, finally, anyone from the Canadian Maritimes through New England, the Mid-Atlantic, and down through Florida, we cannot close the door on any of those areas yet. And there still is a possibility that this area of low pressure could be strong enough and the ridge could be just weak enough to where it's able to find a path out into the open Atlantic, as we have seen many of these strong storms do over the last several years. So sorry this video was a little long, just wanted to kind of outline some of the players and some of the uncertainties without getting too technical for you. Hopefully by the end of the weekend we'll have a little more clarity on what will be the final path of Matthew. But let me stress once again, we are expecting major impacts here. First up for Jamaica and then eastern Cuba from Hurricane Matthew as it turns towards the northwest and heads in that direction. Thank you for watching and for using the Hurricane Tracker app. Have a great weekend, everybody.